in my opinion, like what Jim Brown saying, he thinks black people are waiting on Trump to fix things. I don't think that's the case at all. I think most black people in this country, unfortunately, don't expect much under Trump like they did under Obama or George Bush.
Stop right there. I don't think that's what
yeah.
I don't think that's what Jim Brown is saying. I'm not saying you're totally wrong because I don't know definitively, but that's not my interpretation of what Jim Brown said. My interpretation of what Jim Brown said is he's not saying black folks are waiting for the president to fix things. He's saying that black folks are busy blaming the president for problems that existed long before this man ever became president. And that you can't stand around and just point the finger at him and act as if he is the source of all your troubles when you know good and damn well we have this problem in our house that we have not resolved. That's what I interpreted about what Jim Brown has said. And I think that specific element is undeniable.
Now, I agree with you on that point. But I also think, like, to the greater thing right now, which I don't want to say popular, but what's really happening is when you look at not black on black crime, but like the violence regarding police and black people right now.
Okay.
That's going on in the U.S.
Okay.
I think that's something that has obviously existed before Trump entered office, but as commander-in-chief of a country, that's something that you have to actively be able to deal with.
Okay, stop right there. I would agree with you that to some degree there are people out there that do appear to be a bit more emboldened in their prejudices, bigotry, or whatever you want to call it, since this man has been in office. But when you bring up the analogy that you just brought up, Stephon, when you talk about because he's in office, some of the things that have been transpiring, et cetera, he could have done something about it. Was Barack Obama not in office for 8 years when all of that stuff was going on in Chicago?
No, absolutely. He was there kind of at the height of it.
So what I'm saying, and not only that, on top of it all, he's a junior senator. He was a junior senator from Chicago when you had black folks going on national television calling for martial law to be implemented because it was a state of emergency in the streets of Chicago. He was a junior senator, and I love me some Barack Obama. Please don't get me wrong. But nobody's perfect. No one's right all the time. It is undeniable that the killings that have been taking place for years in the streets of Chicago, one would argue, since you are a junior senator from that area and you were president of the United States, there was more that you could have done. I'm not saying definitively that is the case, but certainly that is the belief that some people had. And it wasn't done. And then you had others who believed the only reason he didn't do it was because his buddy, his former chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, was the mayor of Chicago. So when you have that going on, and that wasn't addressed or spoken about with the level of fervor that we're getting now, do you understand how people outside the black community, Stephon, can look at us and say, excuse me, isn't that a good point to bring up? And doesn't that validate some of the things that Jim Brown was saying? What do you say to that? Come on, bro.
I think it's like a thing about perspectives. I see where you're coming from at the same time, but I also feel that regardless of what Trump's situation is, he has to answer to the toll just like every other president has to answer to that toll. Of course. You're not wrong there. And I'll defend you to the hilt on that, Stephon. You're absolutely right. All I'm saying is you're going to call into the Stephen A. Smith Show. We're going to be real with this. We're going to have a real conversation. And more importantly, we're going to be fair. We're going to be fair-minded. Because, you see, I'm not interested in black appeal. I'm interested in mass appeal. I want blacks, whites, Asian, Hispanics, everybody calling into this show and expressing themselves and knowing that I will be fair. And I'm going to be fair, understanding that the Joe Madisons of the world and many others are incredibly more knowledgeable than me, and I encourage y'all to listen to them too. But I'm also going to encourage you to listen to Mark Levin and even to Sean Hannity to a lesser degree. And I'm going to encourage you to listen to me and know that I'm trying to be fair. That's the most important thing. That's the obligation that I have. And I wouldn't be fair to Jim Brown, the great Jim Brown. And if I'm just going to dismiss his words as if they were out of hand. They weren't. He had a point. But more importantly than that, he was qualified to make it.